$2 trillion at this point. It'll take some imagination to sort of have this thing settled.
The taxpayer money pledged to AIG does come with strings attached. There's a high interest rate on that $85 billion loan, more than 11%. Taxpayers are getting stock options on almost 80% of the company, and they will profit should any assets be sold.
We still think the taxpayer should make money on this transaction.
But taxpayers we talk to are not convinced.
It's just under my mattress.
This epic shakeup on Wall Street is not over yet. Tonight there is talk that Washington Mutual, the nation's largest savings and loan, is putting itself up for sale rather than risk total collapse. London-based Lloyd's Insurance is selling itself to a big Scottish bank, and there are reports that Wachovia and Morgan Stanley may merge. These are truly extraordinary times.
Perhaps more major moves to come. Betsy Stark reporting tonight, thanks to you. And this afternoon I spoke with Mark Zandi. He's the chief economist at moody'seconomy.com.
Another and another, and it's just a series of dominoes. So that's clearly the worry that's pervasive all over Wall Street and now infecting everyone everywhere. Wall Street's shaking to the core. I mean, we've lost some venerable institutions already, and we've got Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley, the most rock-solid institutions literally on Wall Street now under tremendous pressure.
So are you saying to me this market is not reacting rationally, it is simply reacting to fear?
I think what we're seeing now goes well beyond that. I think it is just raw panic and concern. Ultimately, the fundamentals will prevail, but for the moment, it's the panic that's winning the day, and that's certainly disconcerting.
If this is fear-driven, what's happening? When does fear get weeded out and rationality return?
Well, I think that is imminent. The fundamentals always prevail. And you know, at the bottom of markets, of all markets, you have this kind of cathartic event where people just capitulate, they sell, they just want out. Once those people are gone, then the fundamentals take over and we get buyers back in the marketplace and we get back more closer to normal.
David Wright is on the campaign trail with McCain.
John McCain was against the government bailout of AIG before he was reluctantly for it. Here he was yesterday on the Today Show.
We cannot have the taxpayers bail out AIG or anybody else. This is something that we're going to have to work through.
Asked about the same topic today on Good Morning America.
And I don't think anybody I know wanted to do that, but there were literally millions of people whose retirement, whose investments, whose insurance were at risk here, and they were going to have their lives destroyed.
Senator McCain appears to have changed his tune on regulation in a fundamental way. These days, out on the stump, he's a champion of reining in Wall Street with tough regulations.
We're going to put an end to the reckless conduct, corruption, and unbridled greed that have caused the crisis on Wall Street.
But for more than 25 years in the Senate, McCain has fashioned himself a champion of smaller government, less regulation.
I am less government, less regulation, lower taxes, etc., etc.
In the mid-1990s, he supported a measure to ban all new government regulation. McCain supported legislation a decade ago that broke down the firewalls between banks, investment houses, and insurance companies, the very rules that companies like AIG exploited to get into the current mess. And as recently as March of this year, after the collapse of Bear Stearns, McCain was all for deregulating Wall Street.
Our financial market approach should include encouraging increased capital in financial institutions by removing regulatory, accounting, and tax impediments to raising capital.
When deregulation was the wave in Washington, he surfed that wave. Now it's not, and the populist inside John McCain is out.
Today, the Wall Street Journal accused McCain of selling out his free market ideals. Said today's lead editorial, denouncing greed and Wall Street isn't a growth agenda.
It's a conversion of convenience, some will say.
We reached out to the McCain campaign for a response, and they told us he's not a Johnny-come-lately on this issue. They say that 2 years ago he called on Congress to reform Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. They note that he has also repeatedly called for reforms of corporate governance. Has there been a change in emphasis? Absolutely, they say, but that's because we're in a crisis.
Yeah, McCain is struggling to recover. The city has very little power, and without power, almost nothing operates normally. Here's ABC's Mike Van Frank.
No electricity means no lights, no air conditioning, and no hot meals. Once again, families lined up in parking lots for food and water.
You got a couple of meals ready to eat. You ever had them before?
No, not looking forward to it, but anything's better than nothing.
The 350 residents at this Houston nursing home are without power also. Backup generators are now the lifeline for so many.
The rooms are warm, but what do you expect?
Can I have
But there were signs today of things coming back. It could be seen in fast food restaurants opening for business. Lines quickly forming for the chance of a hot meal at last. Getting around a city without traffic lights has meant congestion at every corner. But today, workers began repairing lights at some of the busiest intersections.
Throughout the nation's fourth largest cities, schools remain closed, many in need of repair. Most do not have electricity, and the majority will not reopen until next week.
Welcome to the zoo this morning.
To fight the cabin fever being felt by both parents and children, the Houston Zoo reopened today. Kids who've had to endure so much these past days were thrilled.
We are getting out of the house, enjoying the nice, rare fall weather here in Houston, and we have no power, so just trying to think of some creative things to do with the kids.
The hard times seem to be bringing out the best in many folks. Classes are canceled at Texas Southern University, so the fraternity students pitched in to do some heavy lifting.
The majority of